Good evening, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, adepts, friends, fans, family, and followers to Season 5, Episode 4 of the hit underground radio occult show known as Knights of the Nephilim, brought to you by Celestial Oddities Radio and the Coterie of Samil Arcane Occult Order. As always, I will be your host and guide on this journey into magic and mysticism, darkness, and divination. I am Frater Crow, and it's a pleasure to have you listening in this evening. Whether you're listening live, streaming after the fact, or you've downloaded us to your device for on the go, I do want to thank you for your patronage and support. Just make sure you click the like, share, follow, and subscribe buttons on wherever you're tuning in from. Whether you're more of a visual person or more of a live person, you can catch our shows live each week that we air on 4 different Facebook pages. That is the Frater Crow Facebook page, Knights of the Nephilim, the Coterie of Samil, and Celestial Oddities Radio Facebook pages. Those videos, those live videos, will be up for 30 days before they are taken down by Facebook. But you can also watch it live and after the fact on our YouTube channel, Knights of the Nephilim, where they will remain there permanently. If you are more of an audio person, you don't need live, you don't need video. I know there's a lot of people that listen to this on their drive to work, at the gym, and so forth. After these live episodes finish each week, I do upload them directly afterwards at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon. You name it, we're on it. So you can watch us live. You can listen to us after the fact. We just appreciate you tuning in. But by clicking those buttons I mentioned earlier, it moves us up the podcast community rankings, allows you to stay in tune with new episodes as they air, gives you unfiltered access to our past archives, and so forth. And there's a lot of content, guys, whether it's this show, Knights in the Nephilim, based upon esoteric and occult doctrine, ritual magic, and the mechanics of ceremony, or it be one of our other shows like Pong, Pair of Normal Guys podcast, Caniculum Obscuritatis, where we teach you from the ground up to build your own practice, or Last Call, where we tell unfiltered, unrelenting, unapologetic stories. Celestial Oddities Radio brings you a lot of underground content, hundreds upon hundreds of hours. So feel free to go back and browse through our catalog, see what we have, and interact with it. We would really appreciate it. If you missed our last 3 episodes, we've had some amazing guests. First, we had Orly Stewart and John Vermillion on the first episode of Season 5, followed by Baba Yogi Kalanatha Gori, and followed by Baal Kedmon. So 3 very amazing episodes, and tonight will certainly be no different. We're very, very excited. So, kick up a chair and get comfortable. If you have any questions or concerns, you can drop comments from wherever you're listening. If you're listening live, we'll throw them up on the screen. We'll read them off, and we'll have you be a part of the show, because this show is very much yours as it is ours. So feel free to be a part of it, please. Tonight, we have the honor of welcoming Natasha Michelle, the High Priestess of the Coterie of Samil Arcane Occult Order. Natasha is a seasoned practitioner of witchcraft and diabolism, bringing a wealth of knowledge from her journey through the Qlipoth and her time running Lil Shop Of Lilith. As we embark on the transforming of a church that we are working on into a spiritual home, Natasha will share her vision, her insights, and the threads of spiritual continuity that guide her work. So settle in for a night of deep insights and transformative conversations. Step into the circle as we call on Natasha Michelle. Good evening.
Hi. How are you? Thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be on this.
Thank you for coming on. I feel like it's long overdue, but I'm excited to have you on here. It's funny to have you in this capacity rather than a co-host, to have you on the actual show, but it's something that I always wanted to have happen. It just hadn't happened yet, but this is the perfect season to bring you on.
Well, I guess it was time.
Try to turn this background music down just a little bit. The song they got playing is a little crazy. All right. So once again, obviously, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. We already have comments rolling in here. Ryan says, good evening. Addie says, good evening, folks. Good evening, guys. And we appreciate you tuning in. We're very excited to have you on. Obviously, a lot of things to talk about this evening, a lot of things to jump into, and we will just kick it right off the bat because we got a lot of stuff to get through. So, perfect. Well, first question is, Natasha, to start us off, could you share what initially drew you to the path of witchcraft and how that journey eventually evolved into working such paths as the Qlipoth? And was there a particular turning point that reshaped your relationship with the craft itself?
All right, this is a multi-part question. Let me go back to the beginning of it. So what started me down the path, what drew me into witchcraft? Honestly, my very initial beginnings were at my grandmother's altar. My grandmother had an altar. She had little things from all over the place. I couldn't even tell you now, many different belief systems, many different religions, different spiritual paths. But she had this little alcove in her room that was like 2 steps up, and I would go and sit there for hours as a kid, like just playing with all her little trinkets. It always felt like a very powerful place to me, as did her garden, as did the woods at the edge of her property, as did her like magic princess tree. So I spent a lot of time by myself, just kind of roaming around with all of these things, very in touch with nature. And when I went to preschool, when I went to like my first school experience, it was actually through Waldorf. And I didn't find out until years later that the man that founded Waldorf actually has his like fingers in the occult in some way. And I wish I could give you his name because it's like I'm totally blanking on the full name right now, but I thought that that was a very fitting reference. So I didn't start practicing though until I was 17. My boyfriend in high school gave me a book on Wicca, and I've told this story like a million times, but I thought that I was like, the second I got it, I was now a witch. I was going to take it home. I was going to do all the things. So I did. I took it home and I lit a candle in my room and had this like fantastical experience of, you know, the wind just going through the closed room and the candle going out and me sitting there in the dark going, oh, like, oh no, what did I do? So I called something. I did not call with any purpose or any name. I just called, which is not the way that I would suggest people go about it. Worked out for me though, because what was meant to find me did. And years later, I would be in a car accident, and it was definitely, the spirits were there. So Wicca quickly led into more of a left-hand path turn. You know, like a lot of youngsters of our generation, I quickly found Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, tore through that, and then I just started a path of study from there. And a lot of it was study. A lot of it was study. And I did my little Sabbats, and I did my full moon circles, and I did all my little private rituals. But it wasn't until about 2018 that I don't know how to say it, except like a switch kind of flipped. Something changed in me. I started getting these pulls, and I thankfully listened to them. So that led me deeper down the left-hand path. That led me to Lilith. That led me to a different introduction of Lilith. Led to the shop, which led to a million other things. And there were a couple different turning points along the journey, from there to here. One of them was a dream that I don't talk about a lot publicly, but it was very influential. There was a moment of surrender that happened somewhere back during the shop years, and that was very influential. And something about the way that people were coming into the shop, and finding their paths and getting their messages and all of these things that kept happening over the years, it kept playing into my own. So it kept like, it was like somebody would get a message from me in a session, and then like in the back of my head, the spirits would be like, hey, you know, like that's for you too. Like you should probably pay attention. And so it was really interesting that the more time I spent teaching, the more time I spent mentoring, the more time I spent doing these sessions, the more my own relationship grew with the spirit. You know, I am an ordained like spiritual counselor, and I do all of those things, but the growth that has happened alongside the people I was teaching was really incredible and humbling. So yeah. And there were like, there were 2 other times, I guess, throughout my journey. There was a very intense ritual, that one of those things where you can't make excuses for it. You can't rationalize it. Like there was no way other than this just happened, and now you have to accept that that is reality. at an investigation location 1 year. And then there was the workings that have been going on this year with the Qlipoth and a Jamalek. Peacocks are a big joke now, because that he really took me for a ride, and we can talk more about that when we get to that part. So
No, perfect. Jumping into the next one, how would you personally describe what the Qlipoth is and what it means to work through it, both spiritually and practically?
okay, so I would describe it as tunnels. There are physical tunnels within it, but to me, it's all just a giant mass of tunnels. It is the underside, the upside down of the tree of life, and it has multitudes of beings within it. The spirits that are there, I think, are very different than any spirits that I've ever worked with before. I can touch more on that later, but it's it's a place that you go to be tested. It's a place that you go to be forged, and it is asking for changes, and it I think that a lot of people have a misconception about it. They look at it so easily as like light and dark, and it would be the dark part, right? And I think that that's an oversimplification. It's a lot more than that. I have found a lot of light throughout my studies there as much as I have found darkness. But it is definitely the fires that are either going to forge you or completely melt you away and break you. And I know that there are a lot of people, if they are truly practicing it, and I personally have been practicing it from a Sachakryan like standpoint and using that that standpoint for it. So there are a lot that it can test you on just about every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And the actual physicality of it, I think, is something that's really important to touch upon, because when you're being tested and you're being put through all these trials, you have to have a good holistic overall well-rounded persona. And I think that a lot of times people, myself included, will jump into that, make that pact, decide to go through it the way that I did, and realize, oh, this is where you're lacking. So like it can be exhausting. So physically, like you want to be eating right and drinking your water and getting enough sleep and all of these things. It's mentally straining. It can make you feel like you are insane, or make you question a lot of yourself, because it does pull, it's those shadow qualities. It pulls those shadow qualities, pulls them straight out of you and puts them in front of your face, because now you are working with beings on different levels of that tree that are embodying those shadow qualities. Does that
No,
make
I
sense?
agree. No, it absolutely makes sense, and I would agree to it. And I think a lot of people have a misconception going into it because they look at it, as you said, they're like the dark side of the tree, and I'm working with
Right.
demons. Here, it depends on which way you're going, because I look at it more like if you're working within your temple and you're calling the spirit before you, you're pulling dark aspects into the light world. By
Right.
working with the Qlipoth, you're journeying, either calling those beings inside of you or going to their landscape where they dwell. So it's no longer the same concept that most people have when they're thinking of working with spirits or working with demons or whatever you want to call them. You are changing vibrational frequency to a different plane of existence, a different landscape. And I think that that in itself can be very testing and trying of your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, because we're used to operating in this bandwidth, so to speak. And when you are merging to different ones, that difference can cause a lot of what would I guess side effects, we'll call it. A lot of side
Yeah, I
effects.
was gonna say, it leaves you feeling like you almost got, like, you know how when you get the flu shot, like you're trying to like avoid the flu, but then you get all the side effects of the flu with the flu shot? It's
Mhm.
kind of like that. So it's
Yeah.
like I fully agree. Like it's the one of the big differences is definitely that for every entity that I've ever worked with, it has always been a matter of calling it to my temple, to my space where, you know, it's my vibration, it's on my level. And when you are working with these entities, you can still be in your temple, but your temple is suddenly not your temple. You know, the room that you have placed for this journey, for this entity, suddenly is not that room anymore. And one of the things that I noticed like a lot, either working in my own space or working with these entities at the shop or anything like that, is the after effects, the vibrational waves that are left behind. Because, you know, I'll be doing an energy work session on somebody, and that little fragment is still there from the work that I had done before. And I think that the Qlipoth specifically is one of those things where you can cleanse and clear a lot of it once you're done with your working, but there are always going to be little fragments somewhere that are left behind, at least in my experience.
No, I would agree with that. I think that there has to be. I think the point of the working is, and I've talked about this in the past on our other show, where, you know, there's nothing wrong with using a circle or triangle and all that, but a lot of times those are safeguards so that you're able to work with the spirit as an employee of yours, and you send it out to do a job and there's no connection. To me, there is no Qlipothic path workings and Qlipothic sorcery safeguarding yourself in the sense of those things. It's not to say that there isn't reason to use those items in other forms of magic, as I've talked heavily about and said I actually use that in other forms of goetic rites. Absolutely. But in this form of magic, you are integrating. There is no I'm keeping separate from you. No, we need to merge as one. And
Right.
it's going to have hard aspects on your body, like I said before, your mind and everything so forth. And you will need to. It is vital to cleanse and fumigate and ritual baths and ground and center as much as you can, not once, not twice, multiple times for the next week or two after a large working, to try to really come back as much as you can, though you'll never fully come back to who you were prior to the rite. Because as Natasha said, they do plant seeds. Those seeds are going to be in different Qlipothic spheres, if you want to call them that, however you want to conceptualize it. The different realms of the Qlipoth, the different realms of the Siddhakra is going to plant different fruits. And your hope should be at the end of the day, by cleaning and cleansing and taking care of your vessel, not to purge the seeds out, to clear the soil and make it the highest quality soil that it can be, so that when those seeds of those different realms take hold, you are a flourishing garden of Qlipothic gnosis. And that is what the goal should be. And you won't be the same. It will change you immensely. And the problem with it is nowadays is there's so many books talking about the Qlipoth. There's so many people talking about doing Qlipothic workings. But what I've come to find through a lot of them is they're not actually doing any type of Qlipothic workings, or they're I don't know what the word would be, phantasmagorical claims of these things. Now, that is not to say, and I'll jump back to you because this is your episode, not mine. It's not to say that you can't witness and experience the most berserk and out of mind shit that you'll ever experience, because you will. That does happen. That cartoony shit will happen. But a lot of the cartoony shit I'm hearing about, I don't think is actually happening. So I think there is that delineating line that there's a big difference, folks, between working with demons in a regular sense and traveling to their fucking doorstep in their world and saying, I'm not calling you here. I want you to call me there, and let me come in as your house guest and show me what you do.
And I think that was something that like I didn't understand. I couldn't like conceptualize until I was doing it. The like when I was thinking like go to their doorstep, right? I'm still in this mindset of, oh, I'm gonna get like projected out from in front of my altar and just like poof, now I'm like, you know, with Beelzebub or whatever. And that's not how it worked. Obviously, that is not it. But I remember my mom's always been very supportive of me, very supportive, no matter what direction I am going in with my working. And when I was more public about a lot of the darker aspects of things that I was doing, she would always say to me, she would be like, just always come back, like make sure you always come back. And it once these workings started, it was like that message of hers really started to take hold, because it truly is a matter of making sure that you always come back. But with that comes the understanding that you're not coming back the same, and you're not coming back fully alone. Not if you're actually doing the work. Period.
And I think the important thing, shout out to Alistair Noct, much love, brother. Like I said, with the analogy of the soil, I think that is the point, though, because you are taking this avatar spirit. No, I'm not even gonna say physical body, although that happens too. You're taking your spiritual avatar that you've created of who you believe you are, and you're taking it to this other realm, and it is fragmenting that off. But your divine essence isn't changing. It's only becoming more porous. It's only coming through more than it was before. So it is a way of killing yourself while birthing yourself at the same time, though that death and birth is not easy. It is very brutal on all aspects. Now, with that being said, and we'll jump into comments here in a moment, I want to actually jump in and segue right into, you've recently stepped into the role of High Priestess. How has that transition shaped your own practice and leadership within the Coterie of Samil?
So things were recently made official, yeah. And in that making of it being official, I got to partake in an absolutely just beautiful and mind-bending ritual. And the energy vortex that was like established in that ritual, like just like we were talking about, which I guess is why it segues, there was a death and a birth that happened within that. It was something that was tangible, it was something that was witnessed, and it was something that was incredibly real. And I came back with marks in just about every sense of the word. But the title, it's like having that title means something more than a title now, if that makes sense. Like it's not just a title. Like the title's not the big deal. The title doesn't really matter. What matters is that the ritual and the steps that were taken in order to get to that title, that became an embodiment. So it's not just the title. And I am a big fan of saying, like, it is the spirits that initiate you. Like, even if you were being initiated by somebody else, it is still the spirits that are initiating you. And that, I think, was a big thing for me, was as if a lot of the people watching haven't been like getting initiated to different levels by spirits for their whole practice, because that's what practice is. That's what it was. It was a huge initiation by the spirits. And in that sense, I was actually able to not just like look at myself and be able to see myself in that light, but it was coming back in with a knowing. Like it's so hard to describe that. It's almost like intuition, but it's just a knowing. So that has changed, I think, a lot of the ways that I carry myself. It's changed, as I saw on, Saturday, we had a big ritual, and it has changed the way that I lead ritual. It's changed the way that I feel leading ritual. It's just almost like a call to action, I guess. So it's changed a lot of things, and it is profound. And I can say that I feel like I've earned it now, and that's important.
I think that is the important thing, is like you said, a title, a lot of people seek after titles. Titles don't mean anything unless they have the weight of which they've been earned. And like, if you're not going to earn it, that title means nothing. But if you have truly done the work to earn it and then gone through a powerful initiation to receive that title properly, then it does take on much deeper of a role than just a title. You become the living embodiment of that title, not because you're just choosing to say, well, I'm going to be this now. No, because you are once again dying to yourself and being reborn under that title, attached to you, and so much more that we can just say right now. You awaken as that role. It is truly, pretty much watering the seeds that we talked about, especially in our cases here with the Qlipothic journey, watering the seeds of the previous Qlipoth that you've worked with to sprout. So they had been there, they were already planted, and now it was a matter of giving them the light and the water that they needed to sprout. And once they sprouted, it came alive, you came alive, and it changes a lot of things in someone. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to watch someone, and anyone who goes through this journey, to really unfold and grip onto themselves.
It does. And there were definitely moments, even not just throughout the journey, because God, if there were moments throughout the journey, but there were definitely moments, even in that specific ritual, where like I I was like, am I going to make it through this? And that sounds so like dramatic. That sounds so like, movie worthy or whatever. But there were true moments that I would have that flash of like, you're not going to make it through this. And then like something else would come in and be like, what do you mean? Like, you're already making it through it. And it's a very big tug of war between that life and death state and then life again. So
I think so. We got a lot of comments here we'll jump into in a second, but Thorn
sure.
said, yes, even though it has a face, you know the spirits are the one who initiates. And that's something I've been talking about for a long time, that you do need physical representation of teachers to lead you, to guide you, to be your mentor. Not always. There's people who are solo practitioners, nothing wrong with that, but there are strengths and weaknesses in being a solo practitioner. There's strength and weaknesses in being a part of a group. Not that either of them are bad. There's just different things that you get from them. Now, having a physical teacher teach you and lead you and mentor you is an awesome thing, but no matter how far they take you, they can't take you past a certain point. That's the point that the spirits have to take you, and they will be the ones that decide and bestow upon you that initiation. And as mentioned earlier, that is what separates me saying, oh, you're the high priestess, to you gone through an ordeal. As Frater Barabbas talks a lot in his books about, and that's the thing, is a lot of people don't understand. Like he talks about a lot of ordeals. He went through the lunar ordeal or this sort of, because there is a difference between regular ritual and ordeals. Ordeals are a different thing. Ordeals are when you were going to other worlds and you're experiencing shit that this seems sci-fi. And that's an ordeal that you're going through. And when you go through that, those ordeals change. Your ritual will anyways, but maybe not to such a high degree. The ordeals rattle you to your bones and then some.
Yeah. And I think that before you get into the comments, I do think like it's important because, we work as spiritual teachers, we work as mentors, we work as people that can initiate people. And I know that like I don't want to take away from the importance of like having that guide or having that teacher. Cause like I know just back in May, like the experience that I was able to have looking into, I'll give a shout out to Ariaya, like looking into her eyes and feeling that love and that guidance and that authority and leadership and strength and stuff from a human being standing in front of me, putting their hands on me. That is very important in initiations. But a good teacher, a good initiator, a good leader is going to be the first one to tell you that they can only take it so far, that it's all the spirits from like that point on, that the spirits are coming into play through them and with them and all of that. And I think that that's, something that's really important, especially for people just getting involved. If you find yourself with a teacher that's like, I am the end all be all, like, I'm the only one that can give you this initiation, I'm the important one, like all of that stuff, that's a red flag. Let's get away from that. You have to have somebody with reverence for the spirits and an understanding of the spirit's role in the initiation.
Agreed. And I think that in your case, you've had two very understanding and good mentors with your initiations that you've received. Obviously, Yaya is wonderful. And I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts on how, and I wasn't planning on bringing this into the conversation this evening, but you kind of mentioned that, so we'll segue into it. How do you think your initiation into Kimbanda has shaped and changed your following initiations with the Qlipoth? Do you find no correlation or symmetry together, or do you find that it is somehow changed that side of your practice?
I find that my initiation in Kimbanda has led to a deeper connection and bond with my spirits, my spiritual court there, because of the depth of that bond. And it's, trust me when I say, like, obviously it is still growing. I am in the baby steps of it, and it's still such a beautiful, beautiful thing. But because of the depth of that bond, and I think that knowing that I have like that team, knowing that I have, it's kind of like if you're getting ready to get into a fight and you know you have some people that have your back. That's what it feels like. Like I know that what I'm doing, I'm not doing alone, and they can be entirely different, you know, spiritual components, but I know that you know, when I make it back to this plane after a rough initiation or a rough, you know, husk or whatever, like I know that I have spirits that are with me at all times, that can ground me, that can bring me back to center, that can, you know, lay their hands on me, that are there. I know a couple times we there were some really rough ones this year, and my immediate reaction after every rough one was, I need my spirits. You know, and it would be go to the cemetery and play the pontos and lay on the ground. It would be, you know, laying down and playing the pontos after, if I'm, you know, on a blanket trying to drink water and eat strawberries or whatever. Like it was just, it always came back to that. So I think that working with these spirits has just given me that. It's given me this core. They are a core.
I agree. They become, as meant to be, and has always been said, your buddy. You know, your
Yeah.
buddy. They are your
Yeah.
buddy, because they are there for you. So, whereas a lot of times we do talk about, like, don't make the mistake of working with these demonic spirits and saying like they're my friend. They understand you. They work with you. They're kind of adverse to friendship, so to speak, but they might form bonds. There's a difference between that and friendship. Whereas on the Kimbanda side, yes, they become your buddy. They become your friend. You are aligned with them in a much different type of relationship. So I was just curious what your thoughts were there. We do have a lot of hellos earlier. We have a lot of agreements in a lot of the things that were said by you. We got some devil horns being thrown up. Inspired Discipline said, I'd love to sponsor your shows while opening other doors for syndication if you're interested. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I say hit me up and let me know. We can talk it out. I'm not so big on sponsorships anymore. And the reason why is I just always have preferred to be independent. That I'm not tied to anybody and I just do everything the way I want to do it. Not that sponsorships necessarily affect that, but so hit me up. We'll see. Hey, if you know, we like what each other's saying, there's always the possibility. I appreciate you offering. Now we have Danny Chen just said hi. Thorne said, oh, yes. And I think we're caught up. It was mainly a lot of yeses and agreements. Sarah Clark just said that's what Saturday's ritual gave me, the knowledge that I'm not and never was alone. Thank you again. So I've heard good things about your ritual on Saturday, and we'll see if we jump into that a little bit. We're not ready for just that yet, but we will.
Not yet. They weren't ready for it either.
And Rhonda said, family. Love you, Rhonda. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so let's get back at it. As someone who has run a physical witchcraft shop, what role do you feel these spaces serve in today's esoteric communities, and how do you envision blending that experience into our upcoming journey, your upcoming journey of opening an actual church, an actual institution, or whatever you want to call it, a religious house?
A religious house.
Yes.
Yes. I think that these spaces are very important, especially now, especially with the way the world is, especially with the way people are starting to wake up on their own, because sometimes when you start to wake up on your own, it can be very confusing. It can be very like lonely. It can feel very isolating. And my dream with the shop was to give a space for community, for people that were seeking. And it didn't matter what you were seeking. You didn't have to be like seeking what I was seeking. I think that spaces like those, witch shops in general, can also be abused for money goals, that they can be over materialized. So I think that there's a big balance that needs to be had there, because I know plenty of people that own wonderful occult shops, metaphysical stores, botanicas, like all the things, right? And they do it from this place of like authenticity and alignment and all of that. And then I know a lot of people that can just buy a million crystals and throw them in a shop and be like, here, have some crystals and white sage, and like you're good to go. And I think that can be dangerous. And I think that, you know, I've gone off on these rants before with the rise of, you know, the internet and TikTok videos and Instagram reels. Like, it's really easy to do that. But I think that regardless of that, the spaces themselves are so important, because when something is spreading, it needs a place to spread to. And if there's no place to spread to, it's just going to keep firing off in all directions. There needs to be central points throughout the world or whatever, but there needs to be central points where people can come together. I got a lot of flack for being too dark. My space was too dark. I was named, with a demonic entity in my name. My picture had horns. Like I got a lot for that. And I offered things that people weren't offering. I was offering blood magic classes and sex magic classes and talking about baneful work and curses and all of that. And that was frowned upon. But I think that a lot of people don't fully understand what dark means, light and dark are on a spectrum, and a lot of that spectrum is going to depend on your perspective, your place that you're looking at it from. And for me, I would never claim to not be dark. I am, in fact, perfectly dark. The shop was perfectly dark, in the way that a womb is dark, in the way that something that was birthing love and strength and healing and power and integration and all of these things is dark, as a place for incubation, so that you can come out of the womb and be something more, something different, to start your next path. So yeah, I think they're important. I always think they're important. And I think that, moving forward, for me personally, I want to see it be much less about, a spot to stop and grab a candle, and much more about a spot that you are coming for the learning, for the teaching, for the rituals. And I don't want to feel the pressure to do them in order to just keep up with the Joneses, you know what I mean? Or with the shop down the street, or to whatever. I just want to do it for the spirits. Like that's what it came down to. That's what it came down to, that the last year that the shop was open, like I just started getting this pull of like, it's the only thing that's important is what's for the spirits and what's for the people, and connecting people to the spirits, whatever spirits those may be, whatever currents those may be. It's more about letting people have that experience that they might not have been able to have otherwise. And this is not like a gloat or a pat on the back or anything, but I know for a fact that rituals that I have had there have changed lives. And
100%.
some of them maybe for worse, but that was their problem. But there has been way more for the better, and just that is what I want to see happen. I want to continue to give people a space where they can change their lives, themselves, their ways of thinking, their understanding, and their connection to spirit. That's the bottom line.
And a couple comments here to piggyback off that is, nighttime is dark, the moon is dark, and we need that. And we do. We have Rhonda said, it is impossible for light without dark, and vice versa. It's called balance. And that's it. And people forget that. People forget, even if you want to go with a biblical narrative, that in the beginning, God said, let there be light. Well, if he said, let there be light, that means it came from darkness. So all light and everything you've ever experienced was created from darkness. So when we look at darkness, it's like, well, no, if the original start of everything, the origin of everything was darkness, and light came forth of it, then why shouldn't I go into the darkness to try to discover the endless possibility of self and of my magic and of my power and understandings of this world? So it really just doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. Kelvin said, darkness doesn't mean evil, it's evolution, and it certainly is. We have some great folks tuning in. Everybody's great, but we have some people I want to highlight here. We have Andrea, we have Sherwin. Throw these back up. We have Rhonda, we have Milo, and some other great folks as well. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm trying to keep up with the comments as best as I possibly can. And there's a lot of love pouring in. Addie says, can confirm, definitely changed my life. And that's what we aim for.
Changed your life, Addie. Just give you the little push.
Sherwin said, to every light there is a shadow. And that's it. I mean, we have to understand equilibrium. And as I've talked about with several people, especially lately, that we will still say that the Coterie of Samil is left-hand path mysticism, necromancy, diabolism, and so forth. And we still use the term left-hand path a lot because sometimes it just helps to the general public explain, like, we're a left-hand path organization. We do left-hand path modalities and things.
Right.
Yes. But there really is no left-hand, right-hand path to us. There is the path. You know, like we said, we walk the path. Sometimes that means healing people and helping and giving fortune and prospering and teaching how to better your life and grow. And we've done that time and time and time again. Sometimes that means someone did something vicious or malicious against us, and that means that person getting a special gift. And that's fine. There's no sorrow or mercy there. There needs to be a balance in life. I always say the same hand that plants the fields is the same one that reaps the harvest. It has to take both. So that equilibrium and balance needs to be there. John has popped in as well. He says, I am here as well. Good evening,
Hi,
John. So catch up on a few of these other comments and we'll jump into some questions because I'm not even near through them yet. We have Casey. She says, your shop offered all of us a place to grow. It gave us a place to authentically be ourselves. And that's beautiful. Sarah said, my old boss tried to tell me to stay away from your shop. That it's not what I'm looking for. Turns out you were exactly what I was looking for. Ryan said, if every day is a sunny day, then what is a sunny day? And that's true. We can only understand light by understanding darkness. We can only understand darkness by understanding light. We only know what good days are because we've had bad days. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the opposite to be able to be in equilibrium and balance. So there's nothing wrong with. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say you have to have the opposite, and you have to like respect and appreciate the opposite. That's like the big key to it. Like, appreciate those bad days. And people are like, what the hell do you mean? And I'm like, no, that's the secret. So
well, you get into every moment, every second, guys, is a miracle if you think about it. We've talked about this. You are spinning on a ball in space going thousands of miles per hour in an endless void with a thing called gravity holding you to the earth, and you're made of billions of molecules that are attached together, and somehow we talk to each other and hear each other. It's fascinating. It's a miracle. So every single moment of your life is a blessing and a miracle, even the bad ones. And that starts to get into a lot of mystic philosophy and how a lot of things tie together. And that makes me think of something I didn't mention earlier because we got too sidetracked. You were mentioning the Waldorf School. That was founded by Rudolf Steiner. And Rudolf Steiner was a fantastic mystic. If you've never read Rudolf Steiner's work, it is fantastic. He talks a lot about heavenly realms, but not in the same Christian sense, about reaching that transcendent level of consciousness, which is very important.
Thank you. That would have driven me nuts all night till I got up and looked it up.
Yeah, I was going to say it earlier, and then somehow I got sidetracked with my ADD. John says, always great to hear from you guys. The darkness is the source of everything. Out of darkness and out of chaos, everything is born. Exactly. I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're jumping back into these questions. Feel free to keep dropping comments, guys. We love it. The shop accepted us for who we are and taught us to accept ourselves. Absolutely. John says, hell is the forge of our own becoming. And that is true as well.
Oh, I like that, John.
And the last two, Thorn said, let's not even mention the woods, laugh out loud. That's something else altogether. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I'll say okay. All right.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so let's jump back in this. That's something that's an inside thing for you guys. Now, number, I think is our fifth question of the evening. The Little Shop of Lilith, or Little Shop of Lilith, held a lot of spiritual energy for so many. And it's funny because it segues once again right into it. I like those segues. With its closing and the transition into building what will become a new temple space in time when things are aligned properly, what does that change mean for you personally and for the broader community?
Well, for me personally, it means less access. And that is a hard pill for me to swallow and a hard pill for people to swallow, because I was just having this conversation the other night, but you treat people, or you teach people how to treat you, you teach people what to expect. And when I started the shop, I started it with, it's okay, like I am here, come, like I will hold you. And like I continued to do that, and I still do that. but there was an overgiving of myself. I gave away too much of myself too early, and I put everything that I had into it until there was very little left. And then the funny thing is that, you know, spirits will push you and drag you where you need to go. And the more that I, you know, was giving myself and feeling drained and like pouring from empty cups and all of that, the more that my work, my personal work, our work with the coterie, all of that stuff like started piling up and getting like more and more and more. And so then I was like, well, you know, there had to be a change because everything is balanced. There had to be some equilibrium and some balance. So there had to be some boundaries put up. And turns out boundaries were not my specialty, and I didn't even like fully realize that. So for me, it's that, you know, and it is stepping into a role that is not just, you know, the girl with the witch shop. Like it will be a role that is much more ritualistically based, much more high priestess based, much more you know, coming for the services, for the healings or the mentorship or, you know, any of that, but not so much just, you know, I saw this on Witch Talk, like, what does it mean? 10 conversations a day. So there's a difference there. And I think that honestly, like, I was having this thought Saturday after the ritual in the woods, but I think that there is a difference between what the shop was and what the entity, the particle of the shop that comes forward is going to be. There is not going to be a new shop. There is not going to be a new birth of that exactly. It's just that the particles of it, kind of like the Qlipothic particles, like following you through, the particle will follow through. But the shop itself died. We had a funeral, like we laid it to rest. The energy that was built from that shop will continue on, but the shop is, it's done now. It's been done. And that's something that I had to come to terms with just so much as everybody else. So yeah, same services, some oils, but much more ritualistically based. And I still want to try to hold space for community, to hold space for people to come together and to gather and stuff. But I am sure that there will be some that are not going to feel drawn to the new space the way that they felt drawn to the shop. And that is because there will be different currents, there will be different energy to it. And that's okay. That's fine. Whoever is meant to be drawn there is going to be drawn there. So I'm not concerned about that part. I just know it has to happen.
And I don't think it's a disservice for anybody who doesn't feel drawn to it, because as she's saying, guys, I mean, it is truly taking a witchcraft shop that is dead. It is taking a new place that will have items of that nature still available to you. There still will be energy sessions and things that will possibly be available to you, but its foundation is to be a religious house. It is to be somewhere where there are sermons given, there is masses held, there are rituals held, there are
Classes.
teachings, classes, there's lectures, just like there was before, but in a grander scale, where it is taking on people and teaching you in depthly how to practice and make it something very, very strong and powerful in the community, that you have a place that you can go learn how to do ritual magic. You can go learn how to praise properly. And when we say praise, as we've said before, we are big on the fact that even though we're diabolists, praying and mantras and meditation, all that's vital, it's essential. So let's teach you how to pray properly. I know that sounds funny, but do you really know how to pray properly? Because there's a proper way of doing it. You can learn that. And this will be a place, this will be a home for the spirits. And like I said, some people might say, well, that's not really for me anymore. That's okay. Hey, you outgrew, or it outgrew you, whichever, vice versa, however you want to look at that. But it will be a place for so many, and be a very powerful thing.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say, is just that, like, it is for the spirits. That is where I'm going with this now. It always was. But now it just is. That's the basis of it. The basis is not, you know, what it was.
Well, the shop grew into the church, and the owner grew into the high priestess role. It's the evolving, the stepping stone to
Yeah.
higher calibers of practice. And it was important, and it helped a lot of people. And like a comment that we have right here from Stacy said, it's still shocking to me at times that people labeled you as dark in a negative way when the shop was open, because you and the shop was a large source of light for a lot of us in our darkest places. And I would agree. And I think that's beautiful. And that can never be taken away, guys. Whatever it was to anyone is always going to be there and should always be treasured. When you make yourself too accessible, she says, some people use that access as a crutch and forget that they are to grow to be able to support that growth themselves. And that is the key. It's to teach you to become triumphant, not to depend on us. That's why our freaking slogan is question everything, including us, because you should always be growing yourself. Don't lean on me as your savior. Don't lean on her, because we're not your saviors. We will help you and teach you. We may be your priests, so to speak, but we are not your savior. We don't want to be your gods. We want you to worship the gods and pay tribute to them, not us.
Yeah.
Replying to Ryan's comment, another way of saying it can't rain all the time. And no, it can't.
The crow reference. Love it.
Okay. And we got a heart here. That's not a lie. I'm trying to get through some of these and we'll jump back into it. Oh, hell yeah. Very excited for that. It's in its right time. Yeah, it'll be, I don't want to speak too much on it. We'll give little hints here and there, but if and when the time comes, and it's not really an if, when the time comes, it'll be something truly one of a kind. And it'll be something like you guys have never seen before. But there's a lot that goes into that. So in time. David's here. Hello, David. He put, the shop is like an egregore. They're born, they die, and are reborn. And really, David, I was going to mention that, but we didn't. That really the egregore of the shop, as Natasha said, didn't fully die. That energy is transmuted into what will become the egregore of the church, and that'll be on a much more grandiose scale.
And hi, David.
Hello, David. Britt said, "Hey guys, hey Britt."
Hi, Britt.
We have, will the entities from the shop go to the, well, so there, we just answered that before we even read it. So yeah, they're some of them.
Yeah. Some of them are still hanging out there.
Trevor said, I'm going to be a smartass. Will there be Kool-Aid? I mean, there could be Kool-Aid. We recently had a nice batch of Kool-Aid made, so we could do that again. We could do something funny like cheers a batch of Kool-Aid at its inception.
Yeah.
Ronnie said, like the one from the energy workroom. He's gone.
Yeah. He's not coming back, I don't think.
I don't believe so. Brittany gave a laughy face. Last couple comments. We'll jump back into some questions here. Thank you guys for all your love and support, all the shares I'm seeing come through. Keep sharing. Click that share button, baby. Get it out there. That it will be. All it takes is the right time and giving the time for it to happen. All good things come to those who wait. And we're very patient on it. We understand that. We're just letting things come together as they should, because there's no wrong path when working with your spirits. As long as you're continuing to do the work truthfully, honorably, dedicated, and disciplined, those things will fall when they're supposed to. To try to rush them will be to do yourself a disservice, and to try to ignore the things dropped in your lap would be a disrespect. So don't do a disservice or a disrespect. Be vigilant. Wait for those things to fall. And then when they do, take advantage of them, and everything will fall into place. All right, so let's jump back in. The right space is waiting for us to find it. It's certainly waiting. It's just when will it come? And that's okay. Like I said, we don't need to rush it. We got no. She said no. That's my buddy. And Brett said check. Some are at the shop still for sure. I'm sure someone will linger there for quite some time. All right, so let's jump back into some questions here. In your experience, how do past life connections influence the dynamics within a spiritual group like ours? Do you feel there's a deeper continuity or shared soul purpose among those drawn to this work?
So past life connections, I think, influence so much unconsciously. as well as like consciously, like once you're aware of it, but like a lot of it starts from unconsciously. And I think that like in our group specifically, one of the things that I have found so much, at least like for me, is such a deep loyalty. There's a unity between what we're doing. And that's because we've done it before. It's just, you know, a matter of where we are with it this time around. I think that it's important to note with like past lives that there's like negative wounds that can come through with that too. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that all the time. Because it's not like just the ones that you're like, oh, like I hate my mom, so like we must have this like past life war connection. It's not like that. It's like the little things from like the lives past, because once you spend so much time with people, or so many lives with people over and over, that's a lot of like experiences to like continue building upon on your soul. So that's going to come into play. But being able to like recognize a lot of that and change the patterns are really important. And being able to recognize the patterns when it's like going in the right direction, to be like, oh, like, okay, this is deja vu moment. This is like on the right, we're doing the right thing here. But yeah, it's I think it is the most beautiful thing and the hardest thing. And honestly, like it is like uncanny truly the way that as we grow as a group, or like people in general, like if they're having these connections, how they grow. But as we grow as a group, like you see the connections bend and shift and change and stuff. And like I could use Ryan as an example. You know, he came to the shop and we didn't know each other, really. And he just came and I gave him a card that like stuck with him. I was pulling tarot cards and it really stuck with him. And it said something like humble yourself or something. I don't know. He can chime in and tell me if that's right. And he was like, that just stuck with me. It was like that humble yourself just like stuck with me. And that was the very beginning. And he just kept coming back to the shop and he was, you know, helping me out with stuff. And like, you know, we're forming a friendship and stuff. And then you start realizing these connections, these past life things. And it's like, oh, well, that loyalty, that drive to like be loyal, to guard, to protect, like to do all these things that I've been doing, that was ingrained somewhere. It's just, you know, 2 years ago, I didn't realize where that was coming from. And it's stuff like that that like you find throughout like the building of these connections. And I think that when it comes to like a larger scale, when it comes to a larger group, yes and no. I think that a lot of people are all over the globe are working, you know, towards the same current, towards the same goals, towards the same like life purpose, life work type thing, to put that into the collective. I think that's very true. Do I think that like everybody that was drawn to the shop, or that was drawn to the coterie or anything like that, or will be drawn in the future, do I think that they necessarily have a life directly with me? Not necessarily. Do I think that they have a life directly aligned with that current? Not even necessarily, because people can be drawn to things for egoic reasons, or different like reasons within themselves of stuff that they need. But so long story short, like yes and no. I think it's possible both ways. I think that that's the general experience. But when it comes to a group and like working closely together and stuff, seeing that growth is just really, really, it's such a cool thing to watch. So cool. So weird.
And Stacy said something here I think that's quite beautiful, and it's actually there's deeper meaning to it than might be, you know, obvious. It's amazing to think that in the future lifetimes this will be a past life that connected so many of us for whatever is to come. No, the reason that is so important, Stacey, is that really is what it's doing. Well, some of us have already spent past lives together and worked together again and again in different capacities. Through the connecting and building of these groups in our different lives, we have then reconnected or connected with people who then in future lives we've reconnected with, and it builds. And what is taking place in this life right now might be the connecting of old alliances, Or it could be the first time meeting a lot of you, but in future lifetimes, the remembrance of meeting each other can start to sprout. And past life regression, or past life remembrance rather, is a beautiful thing as you really start to work on that aspect, which is something a lot of people don't focus in their practice, but you should, because you start to peel back who you really are, then you become something very, very different. And then you can start to understand the people around you, the things around you, what's happened to you, maybe why you are the way you are, what you need to work on, what you don't. And I think that's beautiful. What we aim to do, what we have done, or what she has done with her shop, and what we aim to do with what is coming, is that it is to give a hub for so many to come together and experience spirit, and to meld into that pot of essence together, so that in future lives we will this will be the starting ground for a lot of things, more than we can say right now. Stacy just says that gave me full body chills, Freighter Crow. Well, I'm glad. I like to give people chills. I don't know. Stacy, Trevor said, replying to Stacy, it's more amazing to think that we've been connected in past lives and have come together again. And the thing is folks listening out there, you probably have people around you in everyday life that either you do or do not know that you've spent other lives with. They're what our friend Dan calls soul pods. I don't really go by that term, but it's what he calls soul pods. Soul pods. And that just means that we do tend to come back life after life, and we tend to somehow always be around at least a few, because you got to think, if we've been here 200 times, there's a good chance that we bumped into a lot of the same people, because every person is just a soul. They've taken on a million different faces. So that essence, those essences have always mingled with different people, and you're bound to come across the same people again. And I think we do. And I think a lot of times we stay in clusters, soul pods, so that we can work together. We can keep learning from one another. And it's amazing the amount of remembrance that can come about, not across one or two people, but across groups. We have several people that we have pretty elaborate memories of being together, as a group, as practitioners working together in past lives. And we're comparing notes to one another, and it's the same thing. So whenever you're able to take your experience and not just tell someone and they regurgitate it back, but you're able to take notes side by side and then look at them and say, oh shit, okay, so you've seen what I seen, okay. And then another person, you've seen what I see. Yeah, then it starts to become very, very vital and real, and say, wow, yeah, we've all done this many, many times before, and we're bound to do it again. So it is a beautiful thing. Before we jump back in, one last comment here. Is that shadow work, or is that something more in depth? No, shadow work would be different than past life regression, though part of your shadow work could be facing your past life regression. They're separate, but can be intermingled. All right.
Agreed.
So let's jump into the next one. There is a lot of misunderstanding around diabolism in the public sphere. How would you explain it to someone unfamiliar, and what called you to explore that path as part of your practice? Why demons, Natasha?
Because I think because it's in my blood. No, I think there's a lot of, I'm laughing because in a lot of ways, after trying for so many years to explain it, to make people understand, to try to get my point across or whatever, to not come off as the scary evil girl on top of the hill, all of those things before I started just going with it. I stopped explaining it because I stopped feeling the need to explain myself, and that was really refreshing. Which is why I'm kind of laughing at the question. I know that my experience is what my experience was, so that's that. But to put it simply, working with spirits that we would call devils, that's what diabolism is to me. The darker spirits, the devils that many thought of as gods. Why did I choose to work with them? Because that is where I was drawn. It's really weird because I don't remember the choice. I don't remember making the choice of actually starting down the path of it, except for after some of those dreams that I talked about in the beginning. And Asmodeus, I always had a draw to him, and a draw to Belial. And Belial, I attempted to work with on my own, and did terribly, absolutely horribly. I took like a working from like a as Conley book or something, and I'm pretty sure I got like slapped upside the head by that spirit. Like I'm surprised I didn't get eaten. It's only a semi-exaggeration. But I think there's a draw. You are drawn to that path or you are not. And it has to be a draw that comes from like a pull from inside you. It can't be because you keep seeing it on your algorithm. Does that make sense? Like
No, it
there is
100% makes
a
sense. I think
yeah,
it goes back to the theology of kind of like the Clayborn or the fire, you know, the
yeah,
Clayborn and the Serpentborn, or the Clayborn and the Fireborn, where there are people for some innate reason, not just because it's spooky, not because it's edgy, because you have a lot of people that do it just because of that. And that
right,
doesn't mean that they're true practitioners of that. They just are drawn to something that's dark. If you feel it at the core of your being, you are just fucking drawn to working with the demons, the daimons, the devils, and you just feel like they understand me, I understand them, and
right,
like I couldn't do it any other way. Like even if
right.
I've tried to, you know, and I keep fucking coming back because there's something there that just grips me with them, and I need to do work with these spirits throughout my life. That is because you
Yeah,
were fireborn or serpentborn. There's something, if you want to go to the old tale, when Adam and Eve and all that were created, some were made of mud, some were made that with tainted mud. And you get back to Mesopotamian lore where the blood of Kingu was spilled into the mud, and some were made from the mud with Kingu's blood, and some were made of just the Adamu, the mud and the dirt of the world. And that's because you have those that just follow. Those are the Adamites, you know, those are the ones that just follow the word of that creator, Demiurgos. And you have the ones who stood up and questioned and says, nah, fuck that. I'm not going to listen to you. That's Cain. That is Kolmana. That is Lilith. That is even Eve in a way, even though not necessarily, but yeah, she
the
sparked a lot.
shadow side, yeah.
So, you know, that I think that's it. If you have that pull that I really need this, you're made of different substance than the rest of the world. I want to jump into a comment real quick before I end up losing it. Rhonda said, in Ifa, we call it Society of Egbe. We are here in this lifetime to support one another. I have personally been reincarnated over 100 times. Many of us have been on this journey together. 100%, Rhonda. I agree with you fully. Bob Long
Mhm.
said, I've met people again for the first time, if that makes sense. How you just know people sometimes deeper than it's possible to understand. Yep.
Agreed.
And then Thorne said, yes, healing wounds and removing deep hooks. That's it. And then we have Ryan's comment here that says, to answer Natasha, I don't remember what the card was that was pulled, but you said you need to humble yourself. And I snickered and thought, that's cute. Little did I know. And then John says, that is absolutely my life with the Infernals. I've always felt kinship with them. And that's it, John, is that we are made of different substance. And it's not, and some people hear that and they're like, oh, listen to these fucking edgy, dark practitioners. They're made of fireborn, or they're no, it's truly a thing that as much as our side repulses you, that's how much we fucking love it. And that's how much your side repulses us. So it's not something we choose necessarily. There's the opportunity to choose in life things, but when it's truly in your blood, you don't choose. It's there.
And I think that's such an important, because that was something that I struggled with, because I was like, well, this is all like, it's all about free will. It's all about like, you know, my will be done. It's all about all these things. Like if I'm going to be walking this path, and like, so that means I should get to choose. So like I can choose to walk away, or I can choose to like, and you can, that's the thing. You can choose to walk away. But and we see that happening a lot, because we saw an uprising of people drawn to the left-hand path because of the publicity of it, because of all of that. And then just as quickly, whether they're famous people or whether they're just, you know, the girl down the road, suddenly they're back in church. Suddenly they're, you know, throwing out the names of the entities that they worked with and like saying how evil they are and all these things. And not everybody is made for this path. And again, that's not to sound like stuck up, that's not to sound cocky, it's just straight truth. Not everybody is made for this path. And some people are made for it because they just choose it, and some people are made for it because they are made of it. And that's it. So like I had a choice, but I also didn't have a choice. It just kind of happened.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, in one direction, I'll make fun of you, but in the other way, I'll also say I understand it's good it happened to you. And I'm talking about those individuals. Like there's a satanic priest out there that for a little while had this little satanic house of some sort. I think he was in Africa. He was a white guy, and he was making shockwaves in the satanic community. And then all of a sudden, was born again Christian, found Jesus,
Right.
and started saying like I renounce everything. As much as I make fun of that guy and laugh at him, which I'll probably continue to do, at the same time, it's good that that happened. He came, he explored something he must have thought he was drawn to, realized it wasn't for him, and then
Right.
jumped out. So while at the same time, I'm like, how disrespectful to our gods. You also shouldn't be here. So
Right.
I'm glad that happened to you. You found your way out, and go live your truth, man. Because at the end of the day, I'm not against people of a different ideology of mine. If you want to go believe in something else, that's fine. I mean, go do what feels comfortable to you, because this is your journey. But it's best you find out early than late.
Well, and that was, before you jump into, I know we still have, like, I'm sure, questions, but before, I talked about Adramelech and the peacock god earlier and everything, and that ritual, was terrifying for me. If if there was a time to turn back, like, it would have been then with, do you drink the chalice or don't you? And I drank the chalice, and it was beautiful, right? It was gorgeous. It was the coolest experience of my life, mind-bending. And then the horrifying mind-bending came, because what you have to understand is that just because an entity is dark doesn't mean it's evil, and just because it's spooky looking doesn't mean that it's bad. However, there are different energies and different currents to these entities, and especially when you're working with the Qlipothic energies, and they can be absolutely terrifying. Doesn't mean that they can't teach you things, doesn't mean that they can't, like, give you knowledge and build you up, and will break you down to build you up, whatever. But it can be really scary, and that I can see how, people can get in over their heads and think about that, because I remember being done with that ritual at 4 a.m. and wanting to, like, call my friend and be like, "Whoa, we messed up, like, we made a mistake. This shit's all real," and, like, all the stuff. So you have those moments. The difference is the people that have those moments and are like, "Oh, I messed up," and the ones that are like, "Oh, wait, I'm gonna go back for more because this is where I'm supposed to be." Do you know what I
Yep.
mean?
No, that's exactly it. I want to touch base on that in just a second. I'm gonna throw some of these comments up because we still have so much to get through. When it's in your blood, it feels like coming home. And Stacy, that's absolutely it. John says, each of us are aligned more celestially, terrestrially, or infernally. It's about perfecting the essence of your own soul, not them putting out bewares on Satan. No, it's definitely about finding where you fit into those categories of the three worlds. Ronnie says, there's a peacock god with exclamations. Yeah, but nothing you want to fuck with, Ronnie. This is very deep workings. You do not want to stand before Adramelech unless you are truly ready, because he will either make you or kill you. I mean, it's real shit. John says, oh yeah, the Qlipoth of Samil is wild. Yes, John, it is. And the thing is if you think about it, Natasha, too, working Nehemoth and working Gamaliel and working Samael were all powerful. They were all intense. Samael more so than any of those first three, right? And then you drink of the chalice and then you move on. And it almost seemed like there was a backpedal, because as you went to Arab Zarak, it was powerful, but it was almost like, okay, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Then you hit the Girion, and it's like, what the fuck is going on right now? This is getting too intense. I don't know what's happening. And it was like, my mind can't take it. And then you hit, I'm going blank for the moment. You hit Asmodeus, and then shit just gets crazy. So Golachov. You hit Golachov. I was going blank there for a second. Yeah, so it's almost like the initiation is drink from the chalice and everything changes. and it's intense and you drink from it, but truthfully everything changes because then the experiences become so out of world,
Oh God.
alienistic. Is this really happening? And that's why that chalice moment is so important for anybody, that before you drink that chalice, you say, this isn't for me, I'm going to go ahead and walk away. It's good to know that, because if you decide to drink from that chalice and you are not true of heart, what's going to happen
Yep.
is either it's going to become your worst nightmare, and that's when people go insane because you drink of it when you shouldn't have, and now it tears apart your mind and you literally become mentally ill. And there's been several that have attempted to Qlipoth that have, or it will demonize you until it kills you. And those people would drink it. And it's like, you shouldn't have been here, and you drank the sacred juice when you weren't worthy to do so. Now we're going to torment you until you either die or you kill yourself. And I know several people that have killed themselves after attempting citrocrean work. So it is that chalice being offered is a true pivotal moment in one's life.
Well, that chalice is what I was what I was going to say is like, that was, when I tell you guys, I got so sick. Not only did I get like sick, like I was going to throw up whatever I had drank, which, I was like, there was voices just telling me, like, just throw it up. You'll feel better. Everybody will understand if you don't make it. You made it this far. That's a lot to be proud of. This probably isn't for you. If you do this, everything changes. Like, we've got you now. Like, it's all done. Like, you have to keep going this way. All of this stuff about, like, so what Frater's saying about, like, once you drink from that chalice, like, it is a pivotal moment. And in that moment, in that state, a part of me probably did not even realize how pivotal it was. And then the other part of me that came out of it after hours, shaken and drained, and just having had this experience, this ordeal, that was ready to pick up the phone and be like, oh my gosh, what has happened? And then, I slept and I woke up, and it's like childbirth. It's like, oh, I don't remember how bad that was. And then you go back in again. But what he said is, when you went to the next one, and you're in the garden and you're with Canon Kimona and everything is beautiful. I'm like, okay, well, it's still a little heavy, it's still a little weird, but like, we're gonna give you this great, beautiful experience, and everything's gonna be okay. And then all of a sudden you're with Belphegor and it's not okay anymore. And it has been, when I say a whirlwind, that when I made the pact on Devil's Night, I could not have imagined what I was about to get into. And
Embark on, yep.
Yeah. And he, it was a lot. So,
folks, and I think the thing is there's different ways of working the Qlifa and different ways of working the Citrocra. So I'm not saying that our way is by any means the only way or the right way. I'm just saying that it is certainly a way. And the way that we do is powerful, tried and tested. And it can be very, very volatile and dangerous. And it does catapult you, and it does fuck with your mind, and it does leave resonances. And it's, once you drink from that chalice, like I said, that is a moment where, as Natasha said earlier, you can turn back, and you can't up until that point. Once you drink that, there is no turning back. You're in for life. You talk about selling your soul. No, there's no contract. You don't sign no book and say like, oh, my soul is yours. No, you just drink the chalice. When you drink the chalice, you're in. You're in. Congratulations. You've been invited to the party. Not a Diddy party, but you've been invited to a party. You can step behind the curtain now. And it can get pretty crazy. Now, a couple questions or a couple things I want to read here. And we have a good question that came in. John says, okay, cemeteries and crows, I can fuck with this. And it says, Natasha, probably. That does make the dose makes the poison. It does. Britt says, I remember you tell me this. Thorn said, it is like childbirth. I don't know. I never gave birth to a child, but I can tell you it was fucking intense.
Because you don't remember. You can't remember completely how bad it was.
Oh, true. Yeah, there was moments of torture for sure. It's like drinking ayahuasca. Yeah, I mean, if you take any type of plant entheogenic property and you work magic with it, Dave, I'm sure you might be aware. Maybe you're not. I'm not sure. It has the capability to unlock doors, not in the sense of, oh, you're just hallucinating. No, it has a way of being, nope, if you do it right, this is going to be the exact key you needed to just unravel your fucking whole world and take you to places that are just not right. Ronnie
Not
says
like
they're just not right. I think I'll just stick with working with Hecate for now. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, no, you don't want to get into that. Trust me, it wouldn't be good for you. And then let's go to Yaya's question. Yaya is here and she said, can you touch on the subject of divination and discernment as it relates to identifying who is meant to walk this path? Great question.
Yeah, I love that question. I think that let me talk about like discernment first, or kind of like intuition and discernment, because there have been people that have come into my office and I know immediately they are of that side, we'll say, whether they realize it or not. Something that is very important to consider is that even if they are of that side, even if they are of that blood, even if they are of that fire, however you want to put it, it does not mean necessarily that they are gonna do well in it this life, or this incarnation. And I think that's really important because I have met multiple people that would apply to in different ways. As far as divination, like anytime that somebody's asking me about working with a spirit or about doing a working for them, I will pull cards on it. I will sit with my spirits on it. I think that it's important to kind of almost like pass it through them first. And I think it's important for the people that are like possibly looking at going down that path to know what they might be up against. You know, I've had divination done for me like this whole time over the past like 5-6 years or whatever, and it shows like what, you know, what I'm up against or what I might have to fight through or what roadblocks or whatever, or what's going to come with the next Qlipoth, or however you want to look at it. And I think that having that sense of awareness is really good. Overall, so that you have a better direction and you can go in with like a clearer head. But I also think that you don't want to let that like backfire on people, because it's almost like if you give them the information, they can be too cocky with it or too like sure of themselves with it, and then that's when they get smacked upside the head by the spirits. I hope that that makes sense, that answer.
I think it does. I'm sorry, while you were answering some of that, I listened to everything you said, but I was also reading through all the questions because we still have,
You just don't.
I don't know, we still have like 13 questions and we haven't even got through that many yet. So I want to jump through some of them and answer them quickly, I think, with things
Okay.
we've already said. So this right here, I think I can just answer for you if I may. It says, could you share a specific ritual or initiatory moment that profoundly altered your trajectory and gave you insight into your purpose as a high priest? I think we just named it with a Dramalek. I think that ritual gave you a lot of purpose, if you would agree, and changed your trajectory, obviously, with things to come, and led you to where you are right now as your current position.
I would agree, but I would say Asmodeus, and I would say that's because that's gave me power. It took away power and in turn forced me to pick up the power,
That
forced me
makes
to
sense.
look it head on. So
No, that makes sense to me. Now, we'll try to get through some of these other ones. As someone deeply rooted in darker mysticism, how do you find balance between walking the left-hand path and serving as a spiritual guide for others?
I think that it doesn't have to be like an either or thing. I am rooted and working in a lot of darker practices and darker places, but that doesn't take away from the healing that I'm able to do, the guidance that I'm able to give. I think that in a lot of ways, in fact, it gives me more. It gives me more like ammo to work with there. And what I have found is that due to the fact that I don't try to hide that darkness, that I am very open about what I do, it brings people to me that were afraid to say something anywhere else, and were afraid to catch judgment anywhere else. And that is anything from the spirits that they may be working to the traumas that they faced, they felt other people couldn't handle, to, you know, a lot of other things. And I am very proud of that part of it. So I don't do it as an either or. I utilize what I have and what I am.
Understand. Absolutely. This one I think we can just kind of cut out. Is what do you think are the biggest misconceptions people have about left-hand path initiations and Qlipothic path workings? Fuck them if they have misconceptions. You don't need it.
Just gonna say
We don't got time for that tonight.
that.
So we're snipping it. I was going to ask you what spiritual or philosophical current underpins the upcoming. We don't want to give away any names or anything right now, but what spiritual or philosophical current underpins what is coming that we are building? How would you describe the worldview or core ethos behind what is to come?
I mean, very simply, I would describe it as the other god, as the Nakashalaka, as a combination of Samael and Lilith. You did a great post on it the other day, to make Samael Lilith, which then creates the Nakash, which creates their other god. For everybody that has no idea what that means, there's an amount of syzygy, there's an amount of union, there is a fire that we are looking to light for other people in order to bring them closer to currents of knowledge, to currents of gnosis, to allow them to experience, like we were talking about, the rituals for themselves. It's going to be a place of shared flame to tap into these psychic power zones that we want to hit. And in the grand scheme of things, without giving too much away and without maybe even making it make sense to be understood, it's a web. Like we're creating a web, we're adding to the web, so that we can take part in it.
Well, beautifully said. I look forward to all guys. I hope you are all as excited as we are. Like we said, it's truly something amazing. When it comes to working with spirits, especially the spirits tied to the Qlipoth, what sort of relationship do you cultivate? Are these initiatory gatekeepers? Are they archetypes? Are they deities or something else entirely altogether in your view?
I mean, I think that they're all of those things, and I think that they are none of those things. These spirits are something else entirely. I have done Lilith rituals multiple times at the shop. I have done the big Lilith ritual technically 3 times, more like 2 with the pool. And what was done on Saturday was done through the Qlipothic current through Gamaliel. Like, so there is a difference in that energy, and you can feel it. And like we said before, it takes you places. So these spirits aren't just I want to say that they are more than just a river off the stream or a stream off the river or vice versa. They are something more alienistic, different planes, and you are going to be able to tell the difference if you were working with them correctly. It is like nothing that I've experienced thus far. Some of the things that have come into play this year. So
Very alienistic.
very alienistic.
Now that leads into the next question perfectly. How do you integrate personal transformation into community-based ritual work? Do you see collective rites as amplifying individual change within yourself, or are they entirely distinct processes for you?
No, I think that every ritual that is done, every group ritual is going to have its part for all of the people that are participating. They are all going to have a different experience. They're all going to get what they need out of it, what they bring into it, all of that. And they're all going to react to the entity differently and the currents differently. But in that same breath, I believe that there is a communal energy that is placed into it. So like the space that the ritual was conducted in on Saturday, that space still hums with that energy. It is still very much present there. And there was, 30 plus people that put their collective energy, for whatever personal reason they may have been there, into that communal energy. And then that communal energy has since rippled out, if that paints a picture.
It does. I think that's beautiful. It's a double-edged sword. It changes you, it changes them, it comes together, but it's also individual. So it's everything on one umbrella. To each of those people there, it was an individual, powerful thing. but it was also
Absolutely.
a collectively powerful thing. And they helped, their energy did something for you and your energy did something for them. So it goes all different directions with it, I think, which is beautiful. A couple comments here and we'll jump into these. I think we have 5 questions left. I'm doing my damnedest to get through them.
So fast.
Thorne said, I am most excited for the next chapter. Huge difference to another comment he said there. Very cosmic. And then Sarah said, I still feel that energy. And that's what's up. You should feel it for a while afterwards. John said, Asmodeus is fantastic, fucking terrifying, but fantastic. Yeah, he's something, John.
He's something.
He's something. The next question was coming in. Says, have you ever heard a choir of singing women coming out of Asmodeus's sigil? I'm curious about what this means. I have not.
No.
I did see it. I did see a couple times with Asmodeus specifically. It's happened with other spirits, but very specifically with him, the entire room pixelate into multiple little
Yeah.
pixels and become static, which has been, like I said, I've seen it other times to a very minute degree. No, with him specifically, I have seen the entire lens of reality pixelate into obscurity multiple times. I don't know why. It's like part of his charm, I guess.
I've also seen the pixelation. I will say on the top, like with the women, the singing women, it was not like necessarily a choir of women singing, but the energy from the ritual that kind of was a lot was very like harem-esque. Like, so it was almost like I could imagine that there was like women or hear like belly dancing chain type things going on, but didn't actually hear any singing. No.
And I've had rituals, it wasn't with Asmodeus, but I've had rituals where there was several women spirits or woman spirits that had come through and were chitter chattering behind me while I'm trying to focus on the spirit, which is normally you'll hear other spirits. But there was one in particular where for some reason he brought what sounded like older women who were just cracking jokes. They were laughing and talking to each other back and forth. And it's really hard to concentrate on the spirit because I have these old women cackling behind me and I'm like trying to stay there. So that has happened to me. Now, John, I'm going to ask that question actually in a little bit. And the reason why is I have another one that's similar and we'll kind of piggyback off that, but we'll get into that in a few minutes. In leading a spiritual order, what have been some of the greatest challenges and equally the most rewarding revelations?
I mean, to sum it up like very quickly, the greatest challenge would be, imposter syndrome. Like, you deserve to be here. You are capable of doing this. That, and then having the expectations of other people and the pedestal that they'll put you on, and then feeling like you have to live up to those, and like all of these things where it can become a very big war in your mind. And then you still have to present as, that leader and have those leadership qualities. But the most rewarding part is when all of that goes away and you just suddenly know that you're where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing. And yeah, that's excellent. So to keep it real short and sweet.
That right there is what do they call it, a snippet or a reel
Yeah.
right there. That was a real answer. We'll have to snip that later. As we look ahead to transforming a church into a spiritual headquarters, what are your hopes for the space, not just physically, but spiritually and communally? I know we kind of asked a similar question earlier, but it's a little bit different.
Well, we'll go with like the physicality of it first. Like, I'm still really, really wanting to have something that is more wooded, like more in the wooded area. I would love if it was actually like a church in the wooded area. I need, in my head, there has to be like a big room for services, for classes and stuff. There also needs to be little rooms for offices, and there needs to be a basement with a cement floor. If you could just stick a cemetery in the back and make sure that it's already currently haunted by something, that's like icing on the cake. So Stacy has her work cut out for her right now. Yeah, she's been adding to my like list of demands as we go. But what I want to see it be communally is I want to see it be something that, truly draws people into that current. Like, when thinking about this and thinking about my role personally in it, you know, I bring a lot of the feminine side of that energy. So there's the Hecatian energy, which is that like gate and that key energy. That's a huge part of it. And there is the passion and unfulfilled desire of Babylon's chalice. That's a part of it. And then there's Lilith, and there's her sovereignty and her lethality, and that is also part of it. And I think that when those currents and the rest are all combined, like there's a vortex, like I used earlier, of energy that people are going to be able to feel. And that is what I want. I want people to be able to feel it. And I think they will. So.
Well, and I would like to piggyback off that, folks, and imagine being able to go into a church-like setting. Because even if you're someone on the left-hand path, or you're a Satanist or Diabolist, I always thought churches are beautiful. I mean, they are most of the time beautiful buildings. And can you imagine walking into a place like this with an entire packed congregation, watching not one priest, but two, go back and forth on a sermon, piggybacking right up off of one another seamlessly in flow? You have that dualistic perspective going back and forth, that energy. You don't get that anywhere else. Imagine all of that being to the serpentine Nakash Alakar. Imagine it being to the devil. Imagine it being something powerful where this is our belief and we as a room now are together. Let us praise. Let us pray together. Let us sing songs together. Let us take communion together, so to speak. Let us do rituals in the middle of sermons and have elements of all of that together where you come together just like church, but for our beliefs, to bring back a temple of paganism, to bring back a true temple of worship. And that is what we are aiming to do. So if that tickles your fancy, any way that you feel that you can help out, let us know. We're down. We're in works towards this. It's just, there's a lot of components.
The worship is the part of it, you know, it's the worship, and
true
true
worship.
A lot of places that are able to do that now. And yeah, that's what we want to do.
Yep. And John says, I've definitely had that happen with King Paimon, but not necessarily King Asmodeus, talking about the singing choirs and procession of people and so on. So that's interesting. That's never happened to me. Like I said, I've had talking, I haven't had singing. And then Thorne said, imposter syndrome. Yes. Imposter syndrome. Yes. I doubled up the comment. Stacy says, I agree with everything you are looking for, and I have complete faith that we will find that space. Well, I hope you do. All right, so let's jump back into these questions, a few more, and then we will wrap this out, folks. Thank you so much for so many of you sticking around, all these wonderful comments. It's been a truly amazing episode, as we knew it would be, or I should say I knew it would be. There's a lot of people that love this woman, and she always seems to bring the army out, so I love to see it. Now, how do you personally define power within the occult, and how do you keep yourself grounded amidst that pursuit? And I want to piggyback off of John's question. So think of that same question, but let's jump back a little bit. He put, being that many of these practices are dark and hot and infernal and so on, how do you find balance in your practice and are not consumed and burned out by it entirely? So the two go together.
I'm laughing because there's a certain way that I should answer John's question, which is I should give you some like wonderful like method that I have for keeping balance and staying cool. My only smartass answer is going to be I'm a water sign, so like that's I can bring the water to the fire element. But no, seriously, a lot cleansing is big, and water truly is big for me. So like once a year, I'm so blessed. I go to North Carolina with my mom, and it is truly a refresh for me, a reset at the ocean. But I make sure that I'm doing a lot of water things. That I take steam baths regularly, and listen to like Gnostic chants in my steam bath. You know, I go to where there's running water so that I can get in that flowing water. Or I'll even just go to like marine if that's the best we have. So a lot of water energy is going to be a big part of that. And now I was too focused on John's question and I missed the other part of the question.
No, you're fine. He was just really asking how you ground and center, and mine was just saying, in your view, what's the difference No, I think I might accidentally deleted that. I'm carving them off as we go. That answers it good enough, because it was really saying how do you keep yourself centered and stay focused with that type of energy. So you answered that. All right, let's jump into the next one. In your view, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom in the context of magical arts, and how can one move from collecting facts to embodying truth?
You asked about power before. Power is over yourself. It's not over other people. That's how you balance power over yourself. Knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is books, like that is, education. You can have all the education in the world. Wisdom is going to come from experience. It's taught by experience. It's taught by, the things that you go through, that you learn from. So you can learn from books, or you can learn from experience. In order to jump from the knowledge to the wisdom, it's wild. You actually have to start doing the work. You actually have to step into the circle. You have to light the candles. You have to do all the things. So yeah, knowledge is books, wisdom is experience. And that's a good answer.
I 100% agree. I mean, it is vital. I'm someone who's big on studying. I'm also someone who's big on ritual. You have to have the two components together, because to just do ritual without any knowledge of what you're doing is to fumble around in the dark like an asshole. To only read books all day long and never actually step into the circle doesn't do anything for you. You might have a lot of knowledge, and that actually can better your life in some ways. But by being able to apply that knowledge in a ritual sense, you will start to bear the fruit of that seed. So the two kind of go in tandem. Don't be afraid to step into the circle either, because so many people will spend years just fucking around, and they're like, I'm afraid to step in there. Just get the fuck in there and do it. You know what I mean? Like, just do it. You'll be amazed at the shit that happens. You might be scared. You might be happy. You might be excited. It's exhilarating. Go have some fun, guys.
Yeah.
Last words. Let me see what else we got here. Calvin, a couple minutes ago, says, good night and thank you. Good night, Calvin. Thank you for sticking around so much with us tonight. We got 3 more and we are finishing up here. John says, knowledge is knowing Datura seeds can open spiritual pathways. Wisdom is knowing not to consume a whole pod at once. That is true, because we've talked about that on the show, that Datura seeds can launch you to a whole other plethora of landscapes. And guys, I will not suggest in any case to do that, because just a few seeds can possibly take you to the threshold beyond. A few more seeds can take you to the grave. So you have to be very, very careful on that. All right. So let's go ahead here. And Max said, excellent time this evening. Thank you. Good night, all. Absolutely, Max. Thank you. We're finishing out these last couple. So let's jump into it, because people are all starting to kind of tone out to bed. What advice would you offer to those who feel called to walk the left-hand path, but don't know where to begin, or who fear the shadow it requires us to face? Which the segues are always beautiful.
Yeah. So, and real quick, so where to begin? You got to start with reading. Start reading, start watching podcasts, start listening to, people, not to listen to them, but to get a well-rounded amount of ideas. Listen to multiple people, read multiple books. You can look for locations in your area if you want direct teachings, or even online or whatever. Just always have caution, always take things with a grain of salt. That's a great way to get started. And then sit down and light a candle. You probably shouldn't always do it the way that I did it when I was 17. I just lit a candle up, but that does have effects if it's supposed to. If you're afraid of the shadow, if you're afraid of what you are going to see on the other side of some of those doors, my advice is not to open them. And that's 100% straight up, because you're going to see things that you don't like. And if you don't feel like you're able to handle that, or you are going into these with genuine fear, it's not going to probably be a good time for you. So you need to look at why the fear is there before you jump into anything.
I think that's sound advice. You heard her, folks. That's advice to live by right there. Luke jumped in and says, hey, bro, how you doing? Hey, Luke, thank you for tuning in, brother. Okay, here, let's just All right, the other question here I have: what do you see the Coterie of how do you see the Coterie of Samil evolving in the next few years, and what role do you hope to play in guiding its growth?
Like those dimmer lights that you can like turn the dimmer like up or down on.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I see like a dimmer light and the light getting brighter, or like a lantern that somebody is holding and like walking towards you with, so it gets like brighter. I see it gradually evolving over time as it's supposed to, gaining power, getting bigger as it's supposed to, becoming more public as it's supposed to, like all in its own time. And I think that, it's going to grow in its time, and it's going to teach us patience while it's doing so, and that not everything is meant to come to light right away, I guess. I think that my role in that is just going to be to stay steady through it, and play my part. And I think that fully answered it.
That fully answered it. We have one more left, but I want to jump into a comment real quick. Glad to hear you're doing good, Luke. Absolutely, brother. Much love. John said, congratulations on your ascension to High Priestess, Diabolos Vobiscum, and that is the devil walks with you. So yes, John, I think the devil is certainly walking with her and walking with us. So thank you. One last question, guys, and we'll be tuning out for this evening. We'll close things down after our last final statements. This last question says, lastly, what legacy do you hope to leave, not just as a teacher or a priestess, but as a spiritual architect, building something for generations to come? And I know that kind of is off that last question, but it's a little bit more.
I want to leave children. I want to leave lots of little spider babies all over the webs that I'm able to weave into the great cosmic web tapestry, because then they can continue weaving on their own when I am long gone. And I'd love for like you to remember me, for people to remember me. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, I hope that there was a an influence that was positive that I was able to play in your life. But more than remember me, I'd rather you just remember yourselves, like right now, like this lifetime. So if I do anything, I want to be able to help you do that. And that's it.
I love it. And we're actually gonna finish not with my question, but Yaya dropped another question. So we're gonna say John's comment here real quick. And he says, yes, love to you both. Be well. Excellent show tonight as always. Thank you, John. Yaya is getting the final question of the evening because she popped in right after you answered that last one. And it says, it is rare to see prominent women as yourself in the occult taking center stage. What would you say to other women aspiring to be seen on equal footing as that of men in the occult? Great question. It'll be our final one for the evening.
I would say that there is no reason to ever see yourself as less than them, that you always have been on equal footing, in some cases above, just like any other person. There is an urgency right now for women, for the feminine, to rise up, to come back to power, to come back to life. And aside from just, owning your power, owning your sovereignty, having faith in yourself and your ability, and knowing that you do have that within you, I would find people in your corner, if you're blessed enough to do so, that also believe in you, that also can see that in you, and you find other people that respect the energy of the feminine and understand the power of that, that want to see that grow too. Because a long time a long time ago, guys, they cut us out of the books, and they killed us off, and they closed down our temples, and They did all of these things in order to silence us. And the only time that you go about trying to silence something is if that something has power. So they knew the power was there and they had to make it disappear, else it would threaten theirs. So surround yourself with people that don't feel threatened by you. Surround yourself with people that see that strength, and then look in the mirror and see it for yourself. And just one little bit at a time, one podcast episode, one blog post, one Facebook group, one ritual in the woods with a pool of blood, like one thing at a time. Just keep stepping forward into yourself. And the more you step forward into yourself, the more you'll see other women, you know, standing behind you saying, oh shit, me too, you know?
You heard it, folks. And with that, as we close out to tonight's show and circle, we want to thank Natasha Michelle for sharing her wisdom and journey with us. May her insights inspire you to explore your own paths with courage and curiosity. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the flame of the Nephilim alive. Good night, and blessed be from us here at Knights of the Nephilim and the Coterie of Samil, Arcane Occult Order. Take care.
Night, guys.